If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming exciting narratives. Now let's dive into this journey of discoveries and family secrets. The sound of rain against the windows felt like the perfect soundtrack for the emptiness Catherine Mitchell felt in her heart. Sitting alone in Joshua's favorite armchair, she watched the raindrops trickle down the glass, forming tiny rivers that merged and split apart, much like the paths of life. It had been exactly 2 weeks since she placed flowers on her husband's casket. 24 years of marriage. 24 years sharing the same bed, the same space, the same dreams. And now at 52, Catherine found herself alone, facing a silence that echoed throughout the house. The doorbell rang, pulling her from her thoughts. Catherine wasn't expecting visitors, especially not on a rainy Thursday afternoon. When she opened the door, she was met by a tall, thin man, sheltered under a black umbrella. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Raymond Winters, your late husband's attorney." Catherine frowned. Joshua never mentioned having a personal attorney. The man offered a sympathetic smile. "May I come in?" "What I have to discuss is best done in private." In the living room, Mr. Winters opened his briefcase and retrieved a sealed envelope along with a small box. "Your husband asked me to deliver this 2 weeks after his funeral. It contains specific instructions." With trembling hands, Catherine opened the envelope. Joshua's familiar handwriting filled her eyes with instant tears. "My dear Catherine, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't win the battle I've been silently fighting for the last few years. There's something I never told you, a part of my past I've always kept hidden. I bought Maple Creek Farm, the farm of my childhood in Alberta, Canada, the same farm I always forbade you to visit. The key will unlock the front door. Go there. You will understand everything when you arrive. With eternal love, Joshua." Inside the small box lay an antique bronze key with a small Canadian maple leaf engraved on the handle. "Joshua," Catherine whispered, feeling as if the ground had vanished beneath her feet. "What were you hiding from me?" The plane began its descent over Alberta's lush landscape. Catherine pressed her forehead against the window, taking in the vast plains and distant mountains. Throughout their marriage, Joshua had refused to talk about his childhood in Canada. Whenever the topic arose, he would change the subject or simply say that some doors are better left closed. Now she was about to open that forbidden door. A taxi drove her down rural roads, deeper into the Canadian countryside. After nearly 2 hours, the driver turned onto a dirt road flanked by ancient trees. "Maple Creek Farm," he announced. "Beautiful place. Didn't know it had new owners." Catherine swallowed hard. "Actually, it apparently belongs to my late husband." The carved wooden gate displayed the property's name in elegant letters. As the taxi pulled away, Catherine stood there contemplating the winding path leading to a house that looked like it came straight out of a postcard. An impeccably restored Victorian structure, painted in shades of blue and white, surrounded by well-kept gardens and fields stretching as far as the eye could see. "My God, Joshua," she murmured. "What is all of this?" The key fit perfectly into the old lock. The door opened with a soft creak, revealing an interior just as stunning as the exterior. But what truly captured Catherine's attention was the recurring theme throughout the decor: horses. Paintings, sculptures, books, a celebration of the secret passion she had abandoned decades ago to build her life with Joshua. On the main desk, a modern laptop stood out against the rustic surroundings. On it lay a red rose and a card that read, "Call me." Catherine barely had time to process this discovery when she heard the sound of a car approaching. Through the window, she saw 3 men stepping out of a black pickup truck. Something about their posture and the determined way they marched toward the house made her heart race. The oldest, with graying hair and broad shoulders, knocked forcefully on the door. "We know you're in there. Open up!" Catherine stepped back, instinctively reaching for the phone. But before she could do anything, she decided to turn on the laptop. The screen instantly lit up, showing an image of Joshua sitting at that very desk, smiling at the camera. "Hello, my love," said the familiar voice she missed so much. "If you're seeing this, it means you found our secret refuge, and it likely means my brothers have just arrived." The knocks on the door grew more insistent. "Mrs. Mitchell, we need to discuss this property," shouted a deep voice from outside. Catherine, frozen in front of the laptop, felt as if Joshua was there with her, alive again. "Catherine, these men are Robert, Alan, and David Mitchell, my older brothers you've never met. They believe they have a right to this land, but they are mistaken. I have a story to tell you, but first, you need to ensure your safety." Joshua in the recording pointed to a drawer in the desk. "Open it. There are documents you'll need to show if they call the authorities, which they likely will." With trembling hands, Catherine opened the drawer and found a brown folder filled with legal documents. Meanwhile, Joshua's voice continued. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The doctors gave me between 2 to 5 years to live. I decided not to tell you or Jenna. I didn't want our last years together to be a prolonged farewell. I wanted to live every moment fully, without the weight of impending death looming over us. Catherine covered her mouth to stifle a sob. "Why didn't you tell me, Joshua?" she murmured to the screen. "Instead, I started planning. I bought this farm, legitimately with proper documentation from my father before he died. My brothers always believed they would inherit the property. Things got complicated when oil was discovered in the area. Suddenly, this land became incredibly valuable." A distant siren made Catherine glance out the window. A police car was approaching the driveway, followed by a sleek black car. They brought the police, Catherine thought, feeling panic rise within her. In the video, Joshua smiled as if anticipating this moment. "If they called the police, don't worry. The documents in the folder are indisputable. This property is legally yours, Catherine. And there's something else I prepared for you." Joshua leaned closer to the camera, his eyes shining with a mix of love and determination. "I bought this farm for you, my love, to be your refuge, your sanctuary, because I know how much you've always loved horses, how you sacrificed your passion for painting to support our family. This place is my last gift to you." Knocks on the door interrupted the recording. A young officer and the 3 Mitchell brothers stared at Catherine when she finally opened it. "Mrs. Mitchell?" the officer asked. "I'm Officer Thompson. We have a court order to verify the ownership of this property." Catherine nodded calmly, surprising herself with her composure. "Of course, officer. I have all the documentation right here." As Catherine showed the documents to the officer, she could feel the furious glares of the Mitchell brothers on her. The oldest, Robert, looked especially hostile. The officer examined the papers for several long minutes. "Well, gentlemen," he finally said, turning to the brothers, "these documents appear to be perfectly in order. The property belonged to Mr. Joshua Mitchell, and now legally belongs to Mrs. Catherine Mitchell." "This is impossible," Robert exclaimed. "Our father would never sell the farm." "I have signed and notarized documents proving otherwise," the officer replied, returning the papers to Catherine. "I'm sorry, gentlemen, but there's nothing I can do. This is private property, and if Mrs. Mitchell wishes, I can escort you out." After the forced exit of the Mitchell brothers and the officer, Catherine returned to the desk, where the laptop still displayed Joshua's frozen image. She touched the screen, feeling a strange mix of pain, love, and confusion. "Why didn't you tell me about your brothers? About this farm?" she whispered to the silent image. A soft knock at the back door startled Catherine. Through the window, she saw a middle-aged man in work clothes, his sun-kissed face weathered by time. "Mrs. Mitchell," he called. "I'm Ellis, the stable manager. Joshua hired me 2 years ago to take care of the horses and the property." Catherine opened the door cautiously. "Joshua told me you'd be coming," Ellis continued. "He asked me to show you something important when you arrived." Following Ellis, Catherine walked through the gardens until they reached the stables. 6 magnificent horses occupied the stalls, all curiously turning their heads as she entered. "Joshua bought each of them with you in mind," Ellis explained. "This one here is Thunder." He pointed to an elegant black Andalusian. "Joshua said you always dreamed of having a horse like this." Catherine felt tears welling up. In her college years, before meeting Joshua, she had worked at a stable and fallen in love with an Andalusian very much like Thunder. But how did he know? "Your husband spent hours talking about you," Ellis smiled. "Now there's something else he wanted you to see." Ellis led Catherine to a seemingly abandoned barn at the back of the property. Inside, he removed some floorboards, revealing a staircase that descended into an underground bunker. "Joshua's war room," Ellis explained. That's what he called it. The bunker was a large, well-lit room with corkboard walls covered with maps, documents, and photographs. In the center, A large table was filled with meticulously organized folders. "My God," Catherine murmured, approaching one of the boards. It contained photos of the three Mitchell brothers, with detailed notes about their lives, businesses, and, more disturbingly, evidence of fraudulent practices. Joshua had been gathering information on them for years, Ellis explained. It was his insurance, his safeguard against any attempts they might make to take the farm. Catherine slowly moved through the bunker, absorbing every detail. There were detailed geological maps showing oil deposits beneath the property. But what was most surprising was that the largest deposit was located under the western section, the area the Mitchell brothers had conveniently excluded from their recent division proposal. They knew, Catherine concluded. They knew where the most valuable oil was and wanted to deceive Joshua. And now me. But what really caught her attention was a door at the back of the bunker. Ellis smiled when he saw her gaze. "That," he said, "is Joshua's true gift to you." The door opened to reveal a fully equipped art studio, stocked with the best materials money could buy. Easels, paints, brushes, everything meticulously arranged waiting for her. But what made Catherine cover her mouth in shock were the walls, covered with her old paintings, work she had created in college before giving up her artistic passion to pursue a teaching career and raise a family. How did he manage this? "I thought they were all lost during our moves," Catherine whispered, stepping closer to a particular painting, a portrait of a young Joshua, smiling shyly at her while posing on the university campus where they met. Ellis pointed to a framed letter on the main wall. "He left this for you. Catherine, my love, you gave up your dreams to support mine. You sacrificed your art to build our family. Now it's time to reclaim your passion. This studio is yours. The horses are yours. This farm is yours. Live the life you've always deserved, but postponed for our sake. My heart will be with you in every brushstroke. Forever yours, Joshua." Catherine sat in front of an empty easel, feeling the weight of decades of repressed creativity. It was at that moment her phone rang. It was Jenna, her daughter. "Mom." "Where are you?" "I'm at your house and you vanished." "I'm in Canada, sweetheart. There's something I need to tell you." 24 hours later, Catherine watched a taxi driving up the farm's driveway. Jenna got out, her face a mix of concern and confusion. But to Catherine's surprise, she wasn't alone. Robert Mitchell, the oldest brother, stepped out right behind her. "Mom," Jenna said. Without embracing her, Uncle Robert explained everything to me, about how this farm should be shared among the family. Catherine felt her heart sink. "Jenna, there are things you don't know." "I know enough, Mom. I know Dad bought this property, but I also know that morally it belongs to the Mitchell family." Uncle Robert suggested a fair agreement. 1/3 for you, 1/3 for me, and 1/3 divided among the brothers. Catherine looked into her daughter's eyes, then at the smug smile on Robert's face. It was time to show Jenna the truth. "Come with me," Catherine said, leading Jenna into the house. "There's something your father left for you to watch." On the laptop, a new video awaited. Joshua speaking directly to his daughter, explaining how his brothers had stolen his inheritance when he was young, how they had forged his signature on legal documents, and threatened him when he tried to confront them. As Jenna watched, tears streaming down her face, Catherine mentally plotted her next move. It was time to confront the Mitchell brothers, but this time on her own terms. The dining room at Maple Creek Farm had never witnessed such a tense meeting. On one side of the massive oak table sat Catherine and Jenna, now united. On the other side were the three Mitchell brothers, accompanied by a sharply dressed man who introduced himself as an executive from Northern Extraction, an oil company. "Mrs. Mitchell," Robert began with false cordiality, "we brought Mr. Lawson here to discuss a proposal that will benefit us all. He represents a company interested in the resources of this property." Catherine nodded calmly, a small smile on her lips. "How interesting. I also invited someone." As if on cue, the door opened and Ellis entered, accompanied by a middle-aged man with a keen gaze. "This is Thomas Reeves, CEO of Western Plains Energy," Catherine announced. "He's also very interested in this property." The Mitchell brothers exchanged nervous glances. "Before we proceed," Catherine continued, "I'd like to share some information." She opened a folder and distributed copies of a map. This is the complete geological mapping of the farm, showing the true location of the oil deposits. The Northern Extraction executive studied the map, his eyes widening as he realized that the largest deposit was in the western section, the area Robert had conveniently left out of the division proposal. "I also have this," Catherine continued, sliding more documents across the table. "Detailed evidence of certain irregularities in the Mitchell brothers' dealings. Tax fraud, forged documents, environmental violations." Joshua meticulously collected everything over the years. Robert's face paled. Alan muttered a curse under his breath. David looked as if he might faint. "I'm not interested in exposing you," Catherine said softly. "All I want is for you to legally recognize my ownership of Maple Creek Farm and agree to never interfere in my life or Jenna's again." "And what if we don't agree?" Robert challenged, though his voice had lost all confidence. Catherine smiled. "Then these folders will be delivered to the Canadian and American authorities tomorrow morning." 6 months later, Catherine was in her studio, working on a new series of paintings inspired by the landscape of Maple Creek. She had struck a deal with Western Plains Energy to extract the oil responsibly, ensuring financial security for generations to come. The sound of a car approaching interrupted her concentration. Looking out the window, she saw the familiar pickup truck of the Mitchell brothers. But this time, only Robert stepped out, looking older and more worn. Ellis met him at the entrance. "What do you want here?" he asked defensively. "I need to talk to Catherine," Robert replied, his voice lacking the previous arrogance. "It's important. It's about health." On the porch, Robert explained the situation to Catherine. He had been diagnosed with the same heart condition that had taken Joshua's life. He needed a compatible organ donor, and due to the rare blood type in the Mitchell family, he was desperately searching for relatives who could be tested. "I came to ask if Jenna would get tested," he concluded. His head hung low. "I know I don't deserve it, but—" Catherine watched him for a long moment. "Wait here." She returned minutes later with a sealed envelope. "Joshua left this for you, specifically for this situation." Confused, Robert opened the envelope and read the letter in silence. His face went through a sequence of emotions: confusion, shock, then something close to reverence. "How did he know?" Robert whispered. The letter revealed that their father had had another family, secretly with 2 additional children, half-siblings who shared the same genetic markers and could be compatible donors. Joshua had discovered this years earlier, but had kept the information hidden as protection for Catherine and Jenna. "Even after death, he continues to surprise us," Catherine said gently. "Perhaps it's time for you to meet the real Joshua, the man who, despite everything you've done, still cared enough to save your life." Robert wiped away an unexpected tear. "Thank you, Catherine. I'm sorry for everything." In the months that followed, Catherine continued living on the farm, painting in her studio, caring for the horses, and gradually building a cordial relationship with the Mitchell brothers, who finally began to see their younger brother in a new light. The Forbidden Farm became a sanctuary not only for Catherine but also a symbol of Joshua's ultimate victory over the family that had rejected him, and of the enduring love that sustained their marriage for 24 years. At night, sitting on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunset over the fields of Maple Creek Farm, Catherine sometimes felt Joshua's presence beside her, smiling, finally at peace. If you enjoyed this story of love, family secrets, and redemption, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Leave your like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement inspires us to keep bringing stories that touch the heart and provoke thought. Until next time.